Hey YouTube, welcome to the Daily AM. I'm Alex.
And this is Mike, and today's topic is going to be tragedy. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. That's Martin Luther King Jr. It comes with a heavy weight in our hearts to discuss this topic today, but we feel it's something that really needs to be addressed. As human beings in this current world, I feel it's our responsibility and duty to improve the world in which we live in for all people and all future generations to come.
So if you guys haven't noticed today, our topic is going to be about racism. And of course, there are going to be some people out there who are truly racist, but that's the minority of people. And yet racism is one of the biggest topics that goes on today. We hear about it in media. Pretty much everywhere you run into racism as a topic or as a huge issue. So all this anger that we see going on, all this hate, is it really aimed at the small minority of people who are racism? Why is all the rioting and looting going on in Ferguson, Missouri? Are the people in Ferguson truly so racist that we need to destroy their lives and livelihoods?
Yeah, and I agree, and that's, if Michael Brown was truly innocent, then why are the lives of innocent people who are not even involved in this being destroyed? What good does that bring to us as a nation or as a people? And again, I have another quote here from Martin Luther King Jr. and it says, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that."
Yeah, exactly. That's an excellent quote. And you know, when you see all the rioting that goes on in Ferguson, Missouri, it's when you hear that quote from Martin Luther King, it seems completely pointless.
Yeah.
All this hate and destruction going on, and for what? Why are people rioting? Why are people doing this? It starts becoming more than just about racism when people are constantly rioting and destroying stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, what it comes down to, you know, if you're truly a happy person, if you're really happy with your life about where you are, if you feel centered, you know, you're not going to be affected by this racism. You're not going to be affected by people calling you names, by calling you out for stuff, because you know, in your part, you know that you're as good as anybody else out there, as anybody else that you see, or anybody else that you're going to be talking to. And so when they call you out or call you racist, or when they're racist against you, it's not going to bother you because you don't have something that you have to prove to people.
Right. And that's the thing for me too, is throughout life I've been called racial names. I've been harassed, I've been threatened, I've been told I'm going to get beat up, you know, white guy, blah, 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 this and that, more negative terms. But during those times, I felt sorry for those people. I honestly felt sorry for that individual simply because they're limiting their self and their capacity of their ability to be more than what they are. They're suppressing themselves, per se, with all the hate inside of them. So to act that way, it's just really locking yourself into a prison that it's really hard to escape. And
yeah, what does all that hate, what does it do for your life? If you're a person who has that much hate and who's racist and hates other people, what does that do for you?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
What does that do for your life?
And that's the thing, is that's something you're born into. When you're born, you don't have a choice in who you are, what ethnicity, where you come from, what religion. Later on in life, of course, you know, religion can change. But the point of the matter being is you have no choice over what you are when you're born. So you have one life. And if you're going to spend that life hating somebody simply because of what they were born into, that is just completely ignorant. I mean, it's by far such a waste of energy. And I think at this point in our society, especially with our current point that we're at and our technology and our self-awareness and our understanding of society and how things are, we should be far past this. This should not even be an issue anymore in our culture and our society as people. And it's really unfortunate that it even still exists. So
yeah, you make a really great point there, is you know, we are the most advanced that civilization has ever come to. We have cutting edge science. you can look at genetics, and people have done studies into races. You know, what makes an African American person's skin color black? What makes an Asian skin color different? And when you actually go down to like the cellular level, there is no difference.
No.
That's a scientific fact, and everybody knows that. You can read studies about it, and yet that's such a huge issue.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's something that's so frustrating when you see that going on, and there's absolutely no reason for it, no logical reason. And, you know, it comes kind of down to that, is racism is not logical, period.
No.
You know, it's
all the
something
all the
entirely
looting and
different.
stuff, all the looting and everything that's going on. Even with that, if it were a valid reason to be doing that, which I don't see how it could ever be, even if it was a valid reason, how does stealing a new pair of Nikes or burning down a store or harming somebody, how does that benefit, you know, Michael Brown, who passed? You know, I don't understand. How does that fix anything? You know, to me, it's like they're using his tragedy as means to gain personal want and need, you know, as a kind of
exactly
a cop out, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And Alex and I were discussing this before, and I really feel that it really isn't, racism really isn't the issue. It really isn't the entirety of it. It's just, that is just a man-made idea that has been put here in our present society. People believe it's something that is real, and it really is not anything that is real. It's more so the hatred and the unsatisfied sorrow inside someone else's life and heart that they're feeling, and they have this void and they don't know how to deal with it, so they look and point and blame others and do things like attack business owners and destroy their lives because they don't know what else to do. So, and that brings us to the next point, which Alex wanted to talk about, and I thought it was a wonderful thing to discuss in this video, which was the main media. So if you want to kind of go over that, Alex, the media.
Yeah, well, like, you know, to tie into what Mikey's saying, is everybody has this pent up, or not everybody, of course, a lot of people, I should say, have this pent up anger and hate inside of them, and it just has to get out. And the way it gets expressed is racism. And the reason that it turns out to be racism is because there's such a cultural focus on it.
Yeah.
And the media keeps hyping it up. You know, they say, you know, that's all this hype about racism. And the reason racism is still there is because everybody talks about it. The incident with Michael Brown in the shooting in Ferguson, Missouri, it shouldn't have been black teenager shot by white cop. It should have simply been a teenager was shot by a cop.
Yep.
And then media drags racism into it and says, oh, this black teen was shot by this white cop, and then all of a sudden becomes this gigantic, huge, racially charged issue.
Yeah, and it's something they won't let die down. And it, more or less, guys, they're benefiting off of people's sorrow. They are feeding and gaining profit off of people's heartbreak and sorrow. And, you know, we're sorry for anybody involved. I mean, Michael Brown was a son to a mother and a father, and it's unfortunate that this happened. You know, we're not happy about it at all. But like I said in my quote earlier, you know, Martin Luther King was saying he wants to live in a day where people are judged based off the content of their character, not their skin color. And, you know, if you go around being aggressive and you're full of hate, it can only lead in one direction, and that's usually destruction. And that's just the unfortunate truth about life. And it's really sad that it happened, but, you know, it shouldn't be considered a race issue. It's more so a human issue. It's a human flaw, human error. And anger and aggression and violence has existed throughout history, and we all know that. It's something that we need to fix within ourselves.
It shouldn't be this huge racial issue, and the media is just blowing it up. For them, this whole Ferguson, Missouri is just a huge paycheck.
Yep.
They don't care.
No.
They really don't. And if they did care about it, they'd stop hyping it up to racism.
Yeah.
You know, I was when I was reading about this stuff and looking around, I came across this Twitter feed, hashtag Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And for me, that made me mad, because one is, I know that all the younger generation is tied into this, you know, the Twitter, Facebook, all this stuff, this media stuff. And so when they see hashtag Black Lives Matter, that is something that influences them and develops them. And when it should simply be hashtag human lives matter or hashtag lives matter.
Yeah.
It's not a black life or a white life or any life that matters over the other. People have these things, hashtag Black Lives Matter. Just stuff like that, even though it's unintentional, it promotes racism.
Yeah, it's almost like a reverse racism. It's basically directly, indirectly saying that, you know, a certain group of people is more important than anybody else's lives, and it's you know, it should be everybody's life matters. So
Yep.
it's I don't know, I don't understand. I guarantee you, I mean, to be completely honest, if anybody had a thing hashtag White Lives Matter, that would be racist, straight up. You know, that would be
Yeah.
considered completely racist, and it would be wrong, politically wrong to do that. And that shouldn't be how it
Exactly.
is. You know, that's just how it is. But him talking about this, about that hashtag Twitter thing, even in middle school, I was probably around the age of 12 to 14, somewhere in that area. And I remember the first time I saw Black History Month in school, and I was just, it wasn't just to the African American community. I was devastated. It blew me away. But in a sense, that was really hard for me to grasp and understand. So here I was sitting in a classroom, and I had other kids in my class that were African American, you know, a lot of mix of kids. Everybody was in there. And, you know, people I was friends with. And here I am watching this Black History Month. And I'm watching footage of white people beating black people in the streets, hosing them down. And this was, in previous times. And I was just in awe. I was shocked. I was like, why are we watching this? You know, I was really confused. I was young. I was like, why is this being played? And even at that age, I was young, but even at that age, I was thinking to myself, what is this doing for us? What good does this bring? Other than to make these other people dislike me, make people that, am I going to be friends with Chris anymore? You know, is he going to be offended by this? I mean, how am I going to talk to, it really was just, it was like, why is this even being brought up or discussed? It didn't have any positive potential at all, in my opinion. And so here I am having to watch this, and I'm just really confused as to why it even keeps coming up, And even Morgan Freeman himself, if you guys go on YouTube and check it out, Morgan Freeman himself says, they ask him, well, how are we going to solve racism? And Morgan Freeman says, stop talking about it. You stop calling me a black man, I'll stop calling you a white man. It just needs to go away, let it go, more or less. And then the guy says, well, what about Black History Month? You don't want, and he said, no, I don't want a Black History Month. It does no good. It does nothing good but bring up hate. It brings up the stuff that was bad that needs to be moved on, needs to be put in the past. And Morgan Freeman goes, do you want a White History Month? And the guy goes, well, no. And he goes, good, neither do I. He's like, so now you know how I feel, more or less, and that's if somebody can understand that, grasp that, I mean, we as a people need to see that, and we need to move on and fix it as we go. So.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Is every time I remember the exact same thing you're talking about. Black History Month comes around and it just gets so uncomfortable.
It's awkward,
and it's awkward. What's the point? What's it doing? All it's doing is, it's bringing up stuff that's by in the past. I'm not saying forget about what happened, forget about slavery. I'm not saying forget about it, but when you bring it and pound it into our, and when it's pounded into our heads at a young age, from a very young age, we're barraged with racism, and we're trained to think, and we're trained to grow up that racism is still an ongoing issue, and it shouldn't be. If we just stopped thinking of it as a problem, if we stopped pounding it into everybody's heads that it's still an issue, it would cease to be an issue.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we know we're completely realistic. Neither one of us are racist by any means. So, I know there's probably going to be some people hating, and that's fine, whatever. But we're fully aware that there are people out there that are racist. But that's a very small few. And as I was saying before, I've been treated poorly for my race, and I've been talked to in ugly ways. But when that happened, I didn't categorize an entire group of people and think that they're all that way and dislike them because of it. I knew that every group of people has bad people. Anyways, guys, I wanted to end this with something that I put in here, which is Martin Luther King Jr. He used peace and love as a motivation. Okay. He used the power of love for his desire for change with a passion so strong that it changed the world for the better. He used no hammer. He used no fire. He used no fists. He used his heart. And he is a human being that we should all aspire to be.
So, thanks for watching, everybody. We really encourage you to take some time and think about and look into what we talked about and discussed here on this episode. This is a real issue. It still exists. And it's time that we as a people conquer and overcome this issue and stop making an issue.
Yep.
We'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments, and continue on the discussion down in the comments below. If you guys liked our video, please like and subscribe, and we will be at you later with more videos.
All right, thanks, guys.